The S-Class is often seen as the pinnacle of the Mercedes range, bringing new innovations and new technologies to the firm that would often trickle down into its more mainstream models. But how do you transfer the S-Class into the electrified age? Well, that's where this comes in. It's the new EQS, and it acts as the flagship for the Mercedes EQ range of electric vehicles. It's got a huge range, it's got a really big battery, and it's got a space-age interior. So what better way to find out about it than getting behind the wheel and seeing what the EQS has to offer? It's hard to know what to say about the exterior of the EQS. It's been designed to be as aerodynamic as possible, which is why the front and rear edges are so smoothed off and so rounded so that it can cut through the air as efficiently as it can. However, it doesn't have any particular styling touches to talk about. It's almost nondescript in its appearance, and it actually seems smaller in the metal than it does when you're actually inside it. We've called it a bit of a TARDIS, and it definitely seems like that when you're up with the car itself. As the flagship of the EQ range, it's probably not surprising that the EQS is packed full of features. We've got two huge screens, one for the driver's display and one for all of your media and entertainment functions. And both of them work very easily and very intuitively, this one being largely controlled via touchscreen, but the response is good, and though there are quite a lot of menus to cycle through, you can get through them relatively easy with shortcuts on the screen itself. I'm still not entirely sure about the steering wheel controls on these latest Mercedes, as similar to Volkswagen, they've got this kind of haptic feedback, and it's been quite easy to accidentally trigger the wrong type of function when you're operating the steering wheel. However, the build quality in here is good, and I do like the wood trim, which looks like the deck of a sailing boat. And it's also quite practical. There are large bins at the side, and because there's no transmission tunnel, there's a very big storage area underneath here, which is very useful for storing loose items. It feels special, but then that's what you want from a car costing over £100,000. One of the benefits of a car platform built specifically for electric vehicles is that it allows designers to make the most amount of space possible, and that's immediately evident in the back of the EQS. There is loads of space back here, plenty of legroom and plenty of headroom, despite the fact that we've got a very nice panoramic sunroof fitted. The person in the middle isn't getting too much of a penalty either, as they've got plenty of legroom and plenty of headroom too, so this is a genuine 5-seater. There's also some really comfortable headrest cushions here, which are fitted to the standard S-Class, but are just as comfortable here in the EQS. You've got some individual controls for your heating and ventilation too, so you can get the temperature back here just right compared to those sitting in the front. And when it comes to boot space, there's 610 litres available, and though there is quite a large load lip, that's a large enough space to get all of your weekend bags in there with room to spare. Now, the EQS isn't based on the same platform as the S-Class. No, this is based on Mercedes' new modular platform, presumably because it needs all of the space to fit in the 107 kilowatt-hour battery. Now, that huge battery enables the EQS to deliver around about 453 miles of range in perfect conditions, and that puts it as one of the most long-legged EVs that you can buy today. That long range also means that the EQS is just as well suited to longer journeys as the regular S-Class. Now, of course, you're not going to be able to fill this car up as quickly as you would the standard S-Class, but still, you can do a 10 to 80% charge via a rapid charger in around about 31 minutes, which is really good. In fact, Mercedes say that when this is connected to an appropriately rapid charger, you could top up 186 miles worth of range in just 15 minutes, which is remarkable. So by the time you've got a coffee or you've used the facilities, you've got a good amount of range to get going again. There are more powerful EQS versions available, but the 450 Plus that we're driving today has 325 brake horsepower, driven to the wheels via a rear-mounted electric motor. Now, you might think that being such a big, heavy car, the performance on offer wouldn't be that good, but it'll do 0 to 60 in 6 seconds, so it'll give most hot hatches or ordinary performance cars a real run for their money. We've also got rear wheel steering, which works to improve agility at low speeds, but also aid stability when you're travelling at greater ones. And this car measures in at 5 metres long, so you really do need that extra turn in when you are travelling around town or moving at slower speeds. And that rear wheel steering effectively works to shorten the wheelbase and make this car feel a little bit smaller than it actually is. We've got good levels of recuperation too. Now, regenerative braking works by effectively reversing the electric motor so that the energy that you'd usually lose when decelerating or braking is returned back into the battery. Now, of course, you're not going to be able to add sizable amounts of range to the battery by doing so, but those small top-ups will help to keep the battery level. Behind the steering wheel, where you'd usually expect to find your gear shift paddles, are actually paddles that control the amount of recuperation that you're getting. So you can tap to the right and lessen the amount of recuperation, or go for the left paddle, and the car will really start to slow down when you just lift off the accelerator. And actually, for when you're driving at slower speeds, that maximum level of recuperation is really helpful, and you start to drive the car just on the throttle. You let off and it slows itself down perfectly adequately. Now, what you want to do is, when you're travelling on the motorway and you actually want the car to roll, the ability to free it of all of that recuperation is really helpful. It is a physically big car to drive, not in terms of width, but it's the overall length of this vehicle that you really have to be conscious of, particularly when you're parking it. Fortunately, the EQS comes with loads of really good parking cameras and sensors to help you, but it's always worthwhile remembering that this, at the end of the day, is quite a long car. What's really pleasant about the EQS though is that Mercedes managed to transfer some of that elegant refinement that you'd get from the standard S-Class into an electric vehicle. Now, we all know that EVs are quiet, and this tends to throw up any issues with build quality, any squeaks or rattles that might have surfaced during your time behind the wheel. But here in the EQS, it's just as plush and as quiet and as comfortable as you'd expect a normal S-Class to be. So there really are few downsides to switching to it. It still costs just over £102,000, but then so does a regular S-Class. And unless you're going to be doing 1,000-mile days, the 450 odd mile range of the EQS is more than enough for most journeys, and the ability to rapid charge means that you aren't going to be spending too much time at the plug waiting to top up. It really is it's a very pleasant car to drive, and it is rewarding too, because you're able to just soak in all of the area around you in this cocooned, quiet, comfortable little bubble.
Mercedes isn't one to shy away from a challenge, and it feels like it's more than lived up to it with the new EQS. This isn't just a good car for electric cars, this is a good car full stop. It's got a brilliant range, a really refined interior, and it just shows that you don't have to opt for an S-Class to get the most luxurious car available from Mercedes. Now, it's going to be interesting when the EQS's key rival, the new BMW i7, arrives in a few months, but we feel that already this car is well finished and well balanced enough to take on those rivals. We'll just have to wait and see how it gets on. Thank you for watching this Motors.co.uk new car review on the Mercedes EQS. Now, what do you think of this car? Could a 450 mile range tempt you away from a traditionally powered S-Class? Let us know in the comments section below. And since you're here, please remember to subscribe to the Motors.co.uk YouTube channel, hitting that bell icon so you're notified every time we upload a new video.